Hi guys, it is time for my January wrap up. So I guess to start off, I will go through the books that I read for 24 and 48 readathon, where you have to read 24 hours over a 48-hour time period. Those I will just tell you about. I won't talk about them again because I did a video for that. So if you want to hear what I thought about those books, then I will link the 24 and 48-hour wrap up down below. So there was Mobsters Baby by Nicole Fox, which was 3 stars. There was Lucas by Josephine Jade, which was 4 stars, and then Dominic by Josephine Jade, which was 3 stars. There was Dirty English by Ilsa Madden Mills, which I gave 5 stars. And then Iron Gold, which I gave 5 stars, and I will be talking about it separately because I think I really want to do a drink review for this book. So those were those, and then we'll just move down the list. The last book that I finished after 24 and 48 was Fighting Dirty, which was by Sydney Halston. I gave it 4 stars. It is a contemporary book about cage fighters, which I picked up because of Dirty English. Like, I have a lot of weird random, well, not random, but I have a lot of contemporary and like shifter books that I get when like Kindle has their dollar deals or whatever, or through Kindle Unlimited. So I have a lot of them that are just chillaxing on my Kindle, and today this month I actually got through a lot of them. Specifically, Fighting Dirty was a little off because the main character, Enzo, even though he was amateur MMA cage fighter, he was also like this really uptight, buttoned up Portuguese speaking Brazilian banker. He's some kind of like investment banker or something. So he had like these kind of 2 sides to him, where he was like really buttoned up and uptight by day, and then by night he was like an amateur cage fighter. So I kind of like that. It sounds weird, and it was a little weird, but I still liked it. And then JL, or Jamie Lynn, who is the love interest, or his love interest in this story, is like this pixie cut, punk hair color, rockin' bartender who spent like a year and some change avoiding him because they live in like this little small country town in Florida, and she has like a really bad country accent. She grew up in a trailer park, so she considers herself like them to be on 2 different levels, and she thinks he's just gonna eventually end up turning his nose up at her, so she avoids them. Meanwhile, Enzo, who is came over from Brazil and has all this money, he doesn't give a shit because he wants her. So he spent that whole time chasing her, even though he keeps turning her down. And it was a really cute story. I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. Then what I'm currently reading right now, which I can't freaking find it, so I either left it in my car or I left it at work. It is The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski, who is the author of the Witcher books that inspired the Witcher video game. So the first in that is an anthology of short stories about Geralt called The Last Wish, and thus far I am thoroughly enjoying it. I knew I was going to like it because I already liked the Witcher video games, so since I knew the books were a thing, I've been hunting them down. Right now I just have 2. I have the very first UK Golan's editions of The Last Wish and Blood of Elves, which looks like this. I don't know what I did with The Last Wish. I think I left it in my car, which is unfortunate. Shows you what I've been doing my day off, not reading. So I'm still reading that. Then there was Understood by Maya Banks, which was like a novella about, let me see if I can find their names. Hold on. This is a novella about this woman who was married to this guy who was a professional football player, and he abused her, and then she ended up falling in love with the guy's best friend, who they all were friends since they've been kids. The 2 guys went on to play professional football. She fell in love with one, he abused her, and then he saved her, and she fell in love with him. And the story is really, really ridiculously fast-paced because it's a novella. So they try to combat that by starting off like in the middle of the story, in the middle of the love story. And it's just weird. It didn't work well. So I gave it 2 stars because even with starting like dead in the middle of a scene, in the middle of basically the story, whereas she's going into this bar in an attempt to make herself forget about the friend and the trauma, and she has got this brilliant idea that if she can go to the bar and pick someone up, then the sexual assault and trauma that she underwent won't mean anything, and she will then be good enough for the best friend because she successfully picked up a guy in a bar. So the first scene in the book is her going to this bar and the best friend who she's now in love with is there, and he keeps her from basically taking some guy home because she's shit-faced drunk. And then it just goes forth from there, and it's so fucking fast-paced. And even for me, who I will read an insta-love story as long as it's not like two humans. If it's like shifters, vampires, whatever the hell, I will read an insta-love story. I like them. I'm trash for them. That's fine. But this was just weird execution. I didn't like it. I gave it 2 stars. Then there was Fire is in His Embrace, which is another book that I got through Kindle such and such something or other. It's by Ruby Dixon. It is a dragon shifter post-apocalyptic dystopian. Basically, we have this fiery Puerto Rican woman who lives in this world where these dragons have just kind of appeared and the whole world went to shit. That's the last thing that I liked about this book, because so she meets up with her brother. Her brother is a part of this motorcycle gang. Her brother's total asshole, so he keeps doing like fucked up things to her. That's why she lives by herself, and her brother just so happened came across her, and then in an effort to save herself and keep herself from being like fallen upon by this rest of this motorcycle gang, she allows herself to be taken under her brother's protection. Her brother, however, is working for a dragon, and he doesn't know it because this is a different kind of dragon. So there are 2 like species of dragon. There are the regular dragons, and then there's like the evil dragons. The regular dragons have lost their memory on like the transportation to our realm or Earth, and to make them sane again, the only way they can, you know, understand human speech and conduct a conversation with adults and understand what you're saying to them is to mind meld, and the only way you can do that is to mate with a woman. So this woman has been kidnapped by a different kind of dragon. She's been used as bait to lure the first kind of the crazy dragon, who was actually the nice one, not the sane one who has its memories, but is the evil one. Wait, it gets better. She gets kidnapped by the same dragon to lure the crazy dragon. The crazy dragon is the nice one. Crazy dragon is then captured, and in order to save him, she has to break into his jail cell and mate with him so that she can speak to him. I actually finished it after that, and it continued to be some fuckery. I gave it 2 stars. Then there was the Game Maker series by Kresley Cole, who you may or may not have heard me talk about before, because she wrote the Immortal After Dark series, which I love. These are about Valkyrie and soothsayers, shifters, vampires, demons, basically any kind of supernatural paranormal creature like succubi. They're all in this series, and I fucking love it. It's an adult paranormal romance series. It's fabulous. She wrote 1 string of contemporaries. This is a Game Maker series, and I just thought they were regular old adult romance, and I didn't know that they were erotica until I picked them up. That's Kresley Cole, so I already had them, so I read them. So there is The Professional, which is book 1, then there is The Master, which is book 2, and then The Player, which is book 3. All of the male love interests in these stories are Russian brothers. Sebastian, I think is their last name. The first book is about Alexander, who is known as the Siberian. He is like basically the hitman in the Russian mafia. Yeah. And the woman that he falls in love with is his boss's daughter. So it's a pretty typical trope for mob books. The boss tells you go protect his daughter, and then you end up falling for her. Of course, he resisted. You know, she was like, but why? Because she didn't know it's her long lost father. Of course, she didn't know nothing about the man. And then, yeah, it's a pretty typical story. This one, I wasn't too crazy about. There were some like suspend your disbelief type situations where immediately the male character just kind of like is head over heels, even though he's not acknowledging her at all. And then of course all the male characters are into BDSM, so that I didn't like this one too much. I gave it 3 stars. I started skimming after a while. The second one, which is called The Master, this brother, what was his name? This brother was Maxime, I think? Maximilian. So Max doesn't like to be touched. He doesn't like people. He wants to be in control. So he's kind of into BDSM, but not really. Is more so to control the woman that he's with. He doesn't date all the women that he interacts with. He gets through the escort service. So Catalina cleans houses for a living. She is on the run from somebody, so she moves from state to state to state, staying in no place longer than 6 months. Through this cleaning service, she meets one of the women whose houses she cleans is an escort. She tells her she's sick. She had a bad reaction to some Botox. She can't go with this client, but it's supposed to be a particularly VIP client. So, she asked Catalina, even though they're not the same body height, body weight, don't even look the same, whatever, she asked her to fill in for her. Catalina agrees because she needs money to move on. And she takes her place and ends up as Max's escort. Max immediately is thrown off because I ordered a tall, blonde woman who would appear Russian, like me, maybe. And I got a short, curvy Cuban woman. So already he's like standoffish, and he just constantly accuses her of, you know, being a professional and using lines and trying to get one over on him, etc, etc, etc. So blah blah blah, they fall in love. He ends up kind of like holding her hostage, or I can't tell you why, reasons, spoilers. He ends up holding her hostage because he thinks that she betrayed him, even though she really didn't, but he just kind of used it as an excuse to hold her hostage because he's starting to fall for her. So they fall in love. Later on, he accuses her of betraying him again, but he thinks it's legit this time. Then the person that she's running from finds her. Things happen, etc. Magic happy ending at the end. I like this one a little better, and I gave it 4 stars. Now the third one, which is The Player, is my favorite, only because it was a little twisty, so I liked it better. This one, the third and the last brother, Dimitri Sebastian, falls for Victoria Valentine, who comes from a family of grifters, meaning she comes from a family of con artists. She sets up Dimitri in an attempt to con him to get money out of him because her parents have accidentally conned a cartel, and if they don't get their money back, they're going to make an example out of her parents. So the whole family is basically in like high level mode, panic mode, conning everybody they can, try to get up this money before the deadline. And she meets Dimitri. Dimitri is my favorite brother because he's more broken than the rest, but he also admits that he's the most broken out of all of them, and he's attempting to use his other 2 brothers' relationships as a blueprint of sorts, but he also knows why certain things won't work for him because he's broken. So come on guys, you know me by now. I like the broken hero, okay? I do. So already he was one of my favorites, but then Victoria, who they call Vice, and Dimitri's relationship was also one of my favorites because it wasn't just like magically they fall in love with each other. It appears that way, but there are some things going on in the background that we didn't know about, and we find it at the end, and it's just a little bit more twisty. So I really like that one. That one I gave 5 stars. It's still like this series is nowhere near up to par with her Immortal After Dark series as far as like writing style and whatever, and I find that when authors change from fantasy to contemporary backwards, that direction, that happens. But I still, especially the last one, The Player, I really liked it. Oh Lord, what book am I on? Shit. Then I read the Hidden Legacy series by Ilona Andrews, of which there is Burn for Me, White Hot, and then Wildfire. Now look, I know the covers make them look like trashy romances. This is the same thing with the Kate Daniels series, also by Ilona Andrews. I don't know what's going on with the covers, but Avon produced this one, so it's a little bit more romance. No, it's about the same amount of romance as there is in the Kate Daniels series, but I like Rogan, who is a love interest in this series, better. Okay, so the Hidden Legacy series, which I think I talked about in my Top 5 Wednesday Hidden Gems, because nobody talks about the series and you should read it. I think everybody kind of thinks like they're scared of the Kate Daniels, like the other series that Ilona Andrews writes, because they think that it won't be as good as Kate Daniels, but this one is just as freaking good. So this one is set in a world that is kind of built on by her Edge series, and where there's families who are like there are families with old money, there are families with old magic. The more powerful you are, the higher ranking you are, your family can form a house if you have a certain number of primes. So that you're leveled, what kind of magic user you are, top level magic user, you're a prime in whatever type of magic that you have. You have, I think, 2 primes in your family can form a house. So already I like that world because it's unique, it's a little different. I mean, there's a lot of it in YA, but not so much in adult fantasy or paranormal fantasy, urban romance, fantasy, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say. So in this one, our main character, who is kind of a mercenary still, like Kate Daniels, so not really a mercenary, she's more so a private eye. She can use magic, but the kind of magic that she has will cause her to be used by the government, so she keeps it secret. She uses it to help her in her cases, but she doesn't let anybody know that her magic can allow her to detect whether someone's lying or telling the truth. She thinks that's the extent of her magic, and we kind of find out as the series goes on that it's really not. And so there's this whole mystery surrounding her family and etc. And then there's this whole mystery surrounding like the cases that she started taking in the first book. So what I really like about Ilona Andrews is that they have this way of tying together what appears to be like 3 different like plot arcs. So it's the same as if you read the Sherilyn Kenyon series. So each character has like their own, per book, individual plot thing going on, and then there's this overarching like plot line that follows the entire series. So Ilona Andrews has this way of like, Kate will take a case in the Kate Daniels series, and it's like, it appears to be like seemingly individual thing, and then she'll take another case in this individual thing, and then you have in the background a romance brewing, which takes the course of several books, and then on top of that you have like this big bad that's threatening over the course of several books. In some of the cases, while they might be individual, some of them tie into like the big bad, like that overarching thing. They have this really cool way of doing that, and by the time you get into the 4th book, like every single thing has tied together, not just some of them, and I freaking love it. So the same thing is starting to happen with the Hidden Legacy series. So in the first book, she gets introduced to Rogan, who is known as Mad Rogan. He went ballistic when he joined the military. He's like super powerful, his powers went out of control, and he killed a lot of people. But the military kind of made him. But he's taken on that personality and he's owned it. So he doesn't even go by his real first name. He just goes by Mad Rogan. And he just does whatever the fuck he wants, and people let him do it. Because he's powerful enough that who's going to tell him no? I ain't going to tell him no. You going to tell him no? You ain't about to kill me. So Curran kind of has that too, to where he just gives no shits. Curran being the love interest from the Kate Daniels series. But it's different with Rogan because he's just a little bit more the left side of the crazy line with it. And I like that. That's why I like Kaz Brekker, because Kaz Brekker gives no shits, and he knows he's wrong, but who gonna tell him? You might get your eyeball snatched out. So just leave him alone, let him do what he gonna do. That's kind of what everybody does in Mad Rogan. So I really, really like it. I can't explain more about the series to you because it will start to give things away. Like it still happened, but it didn't mean what you thought it was gonna be. Like it's just and they just have this way of like world building and tying together these crazy stories and legends of old. Like Kate Daniels series ties in a lot of like stories from the Bible and like the tower building and stuff. And then this series is starting to do the same. It's only 3 books in, so I'm excited because if it gets up to where like the Kate Daniels series is, we're waiting on the last book, which is supposed to be book 11 or 10, 11, shit, whatever. If Hidden Legacy series gets to be that many, I'll die happy. I swear to God, I'll die happy. So I gave all 3 of them 5 stars. Then, for some reason, I felt the need to read some more Maya Banks. So I read these Maya Banks books first. I read Rush, which is the first book in the Breathless trilogy, and then I read Fever. They're like some adult contemporary romance with like a hint of like BDSM or something, and they were supposed to be better than 50 Shades of Grey, and I read them. So the first one I gave 4 stars, and really it was like 3.5, but I just rounded it up to 4 because I was feeling generous. And then the second one, I barely finished it and was like, what in the ever-loving fuck is this? And I gave it 2 stars. So in the second one, there are these 2 brothers. No, they're 2 friends, and their thing is just they share women. That's just their thing. So they meet this woman, and they share her, and then the whole time it's happening, the one friend, the first one, is just like, I don't want this to happen. I think it's Jace. Yeah. Jace, he doesn't want it to happen. He's upset with it. He's furious, and he allows it to happen. He doesn't say anything. And then later he acknowledges, I never wanted that, but I did it anyway, but I want it for myself. So you've now created this situation where it's going to be awkward because this is your best friend and your business partner, and you're with this woman and you've moved her into your house, basically. That's another thing. The insta love was crazy, because come to find out, the woman was homeless. He went banana sandwich looking all over the fucking New York City for her. Basically kidnapped her from the shelter. It was like, here, live in my sister's old apartment. She lives with her boyfriend now, the sister and the boyfriend being the characters from the first book. It's not even worth the talk, whatever. But it's temporary. You're gonna live with me afterwards. And it's just like, what the fuck? So it's insta-lovey as hell. He does like some really weird shit. But then like even outside of all that, I would have been mad because you allowed the woman that you're supposedly like love at first sight, fall in love with, to sleep with you and your friend at the same time. Even though while it's happening you're like, I don't want this, but you do it anyway because you think that's the only way you can have her, and then later you decide to keep her, but you've now put her in this awkward situation because your best friend's gonna be around all the time. The very first time she was with you, she was 2 stars. Okay, so then I'm working on still Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind. This is a buddy read with Bethany from Beautiful Bookish Bethany, with Leanna from over at Leanna's Library, and with Jade from Bedtime Bookworm. All of them are way ahead of me. I think everybody else is almost done except for Bethany, who's finished it, and then I'm like there. Sorry. I'm working on it, I swear. I don't know why I keep getting distracted by contemporaries. I just, gosh. So then there was my function, which I have done a full-fledged drink book review on. I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. Go check it out. I'll talk to the author a lot on Twitter, and she is phenomenal. She's such a sweetie too. So also go check her out on Twitter. I'll link the book review, because in the book review I talk about her style of writing, I talk about the book, the premise of the book, my review for the book, and I link the author's social media and her website. So I will just link the book review down below. Then I read Witch for Hire by Shyla Colt, who also has a booktube page, BT Dub. It is a paranormal romance in which it takes place in Louisiana, and I do so love those because Louisiana just has like a really good just history that lends well for paranormal romance stories. A lot of the Sherilyn Kenyon books, a lot of them take place in New Orleans. Anyway, so in Witch for Hire, there's this young woman who's basically primed to take over her family. She's a family full of witches, and she essentially runs from her family and her home because she ends up being bound to this vampire. Something happens, she has to go back home. She comes to find out the vampire that she was bound to and ran from is now the most powerful vampire in the territory, and in fact a master vampire. So now she has to come and deal with family politics. She has to deal with betrayal within her family. She has to deal with vampire politics, and then like paranormal politics of like the intermingling different cultures of vampires and witches and etc. Then I finished in the month of January, which I really fucking excited about, Children of Blood and Bone. I have an arc here that was sent to me by Bethany, and she will forever in life be my favorite person for this, and this book was so fucking good. I have now pre-ordered it because I want the hardcover version. The hardcover version, the actual cover, I think the author put a picture of the final cover up on Instagram yesterday or the day before yesterday, and it was so fucking good. I am not going to talk about it at all here because I am actually, as soon as I turn this off, I have already started prepping the things to film my drink review for this book. But 5 stars, doy, as if it'd be anything else. And then lastly, I just reread Alpha and Omega, which is the prequel at the beginning of Cry Wolf. I actually think, did I reread Cry Wolf? I did. I reread Alpha and Omega, and then I reread Cry Wolf, which I have done reviews on, so I won't go into that again. Plus they were rereads, so I didn't bother to rewrite them because I just read them in December. But I wanted to read them again because reasons. So that is all for, whew, that was a lot of books, yo. That is all for the month of January. I have no idea what the fuck to read in February. Jesus Christ. But anyway, that is all I got. Thanks for watching, guys. My camera's about to cut off, so I'm hurry up and get out of here. I will see you guys later. Bye bye.